Yeah, I'm that fan. The Spectacular Spider-Man is to me my favorite Spider-Man product, everything from the movies, the TV shows, anything you can name. The Spectacular Spider-Man was it for me. It came out in a period where, I'm gonna be honest, I was kind of tired of Spider-Man. I did play a couple of the video games that were coming out around this time, but it was just kind of like at this point it was overkill. And then they had this one show, The Spectacular Spider-Man. Now, the fun story about how I found out about this show was through a comic book, which featured Spider-Man, Iron Man, and the Hulk. And I remember reading the comic, and then in the process, you would go to a website to watch the rest of the story. So I did, and then I found this website which was like Marvel for Kids or something, and then I got to see more of like the stuff that was coming Marvel wise. Um, and then that's how I found all these trailers for the Spectacular Spider-Man, and it just looked cool. And the first time I ever experienced the show was actually the Lizard episode on TV, and I was like, this is kind of cool. Like the animation is cool, the voice acting was great, the characters you are heavily invested on, and I was like, I gotta consistently watch this show. And I used to wake up every morning to watch WB for Kids. I'm so much of a fan that I actually knew what was coming on before and after. Like they had Will and Do It, they had Tom and Jerry, Ninja Turtles, World of Quest. For those of you who did not know what that was, they had like a Yu-Gi-Oh ripoff TV show, which I forgot the name of, but I knew there was like this Green Hulk character looking guy. Um, but man, this was a great time for television, and Spectacular Spider-Man. Man, this was awesome. This is one of my favorite series. This is probably one of, like, if I'm being honest, it would be Batman the Animated Series, X-Men the Animated Series, and then the Spectacular Spider-Man. That is like my Spider-Man. Like Josh Keaton was the voice of Peter Parker and Spider-Man, and he to me is what Kevin Conroy was for Batman the Animated Series, and he just did a great job. He sounded like a young high school Peter Parker. And I think that's what made me fall in love with the show, that it was actually a high school show. It's 2008 through 2009. I was basically in elementary school, but I was working my way up to middle school. So this kind of felt close to home to me. And then to top it off, this was Spider-Man as it is. Like there wasn't no Iron Man, there wasn't no Avengers, X-Men, none of that. It was just a simple Peter Parker story going throughout. And possibly the best part about it is that every character in the show had an arc. They even had characters that appeared that you didn't know were going to be playing a big role in the later storyline. Like example, Sandman and Rhino. Yeah, you knew these guys were eventually going to become Sandman and Rhino. One of the Chameleon's extras turns out to be Mysterio later on. So stuff like that was actually really cool. But hands down, the best part about this show was actually the high school aspect, because it is Peter Parker trying to balance life. He actually has an internship where he's constantly telling people like, "Oh, Aunt May gave me a curfew. I have to go." And this whole time he's actually um going out and doing missions as Spider-Man. Like one of the more tragic episodes was the Lizard episode, where he was asking for help. Like they were asking Peter Parker for help, and he says, "I'm sorry, but my Aunt May needs me." He leaves. They show pictures of Peter and the Lizard. He has a job at the Daily Bugle, and then they see photos taken by Peter Parker, which further upsets Dr. Connors and his family, and they end up firing him. And he even was willing to sacrifice his powers, like, but then he remembers with great power comes great responsibility. One of the best parts about this show was the theme song, the spectacular. Like, it was awesome. And then they actually showcase the different characters that they will focus on. The closest we ever got to a J.K. Simmons, J. Jonah Jameson was on this show. I love that scene where where Peter Parker goes, "Hey Jonah, I need a word. How about scram? Or two words, scram kid. Or 17. Get out of my office in 2.3 seconds or I'll step you to a flagpole." Like, that's how much of a fan I am. The fact that I remember that far. I think this was the best iteration of Gwen Stacy. I was like wondering what the hype was about because I didn't like her in Spider-Man 3. So when she came out on this show, she was awesome. Like, she generally felt like one of Peter's best friends at the time. Um, yeah, this is definitely my favorite Gwen Stacy. The closest other one was hands down Spider Verse Gwen Stacy, but that's her with superpowers. This is her without him. I don't know if we were ever gonna get to Gwen Stacy with powers on this series. The Oscorp aspect of it was actually really cool. I'll talk about the twist when I get to it. But I thought Green Goblin, he had a unique look and he was actually very cool and interesting. Actually, everybody here had a different look and interest. Like, this is the most I ever been invested on the Vulture. I mean, I was never a big fan of Vulture. He was just a guy that could fly. But like, now I see more of his story, and I really liked him. Can't wait to talk about Spider-Man: Homecoming and talk about the Vulture there. Doc Ock was actually my least favorite villain, but that's just because they did such a good job. Like, I think Doc Ock was an important villain to the Spectacular Spider-Man, but man, the fact that they had all these other characters do another great job. But hands down, the best villain of this entire story was Venom. And I love that they changed the origin story of Eddie Brock. Instead of just being another photographer, they had Peter and Eddie be best friends back in the day. Then Eddie graduated from high school, and Peter was on his own. And turns out that both of their parents were on the same plane crash, but Peter had his aunt and uncle. Eddie didn't, so he basically was always all alone, and he gets mad throughout the show because Peter doesn't, like, he only focuses on himself and only taking pictures. He doesn't call the cops or anything. He's just too much on his own. Um, and then he hates Spider-Man because he believes he stole the symbiote. He is screwed over his career. So naturally, he just gets angry. So when he does get to the symbiote, he becomes Venom. And then the story, the first half of the season was built towards this. Also, the symbiote storyline itself was actually pretty cool. Peter naturally gets the symbiote, and then you know, he starts saying "we" to everything. Um, and you don't realize that the symbiote suit is actually really controlling Peter. There was an episode where Peter takes on the Sinister Six, and it's like a simple, what you expect type of fight, but then the unthinkable happens where Peter just gives up and takes a nap. Around this time, Aunt May is in the hospital, and he doesn't know it, but he freaking is asleep, and then the symbiote wears Peter Parker. And the final battle with the Sinister Six is just the symbiote fighting the Sinister Six on his own. He's actually quiet the whole time, like he doesn't speak, nothing. And I was like, that is cool. That is a really cool concept. But yeah, around this time you get to see Peter as a more cynical guy. And the person that sets Peter straight was Flash Thompson. And I'm gonna say this. This is my favorite Flash Thompson ever. He's actually at some points my favorite character. He went from a typical bully to just kind of like the smart guy. Like, he's just a super fan of Spider-Man that tells Peter Parker straight up. So like, they do start as enemies, but then they become friends over time. And the other side high school characters were great. Like Liz in this show, who was a nobody character, becomes somebody here, and she even falls for Peter after he helps her, and even puts her straight because like she doesn't take school serious and Peter does. So that was a cool concept too. MJ doesn't do much, but she is basically the cool girl that everybody likes. I do like her story arc, and I know that when the show ended, they were supposed to end up together at one point. But the chemistry with Gwen Stacy and Peter Parker was great. They start off as best friends. Gwen starts realizing that he has feelings for him. Then Peter's confused. But I love that shot of like when they kiss and then Peter just hears Venom like we all know who you love. They do a great job at making you feel for Peter in his high school life. This was like the best we ever gotten from him. Craven was not one that I was thoroughly happy with. I didn't like the fact that he becomes a lion. I think it was ridiculous. Like he was already cool as it was. They didn't need to do all this other extra stuff. It was kind of dumb. There was a really cool Sandman arc where he actually redeems himself, which is basically what Spider-Man 3 was trying to do with Sandman, and I really liked it where he sacrifices himself, turns into glass, only to find out he wasn't dead. I kind of wish that they went out there and like they actually killed off the Sandman because let's be honest, after this we don't see him anymore. We were supposed to get him in season 3, but it would have been more surprising if we did see him around that time. But they could have just written that character off because he doesn't do anything after this. Harry Osborn even becomes one of the cool kids because of it, but then he gets taken up when he gets revealed to be the Green Goblin. More on that twist later. Black Cat, who has really great chemistry with Spider-Man. You can even tell the romance, but it is a little weird because isn't Peter a high school kid? Like, that's a little weird. Like that little chemistry that they have. There was an episode where Peter is in a jail cell and he is basically trying to escape to prove it, but turns out it's a trap that the Green Goblin set up for all the villains to go after him, only to find out that around the same time, Black Cat is going into jail to try to free her father, and the father is the man who shot Uncle Ben, and this divides Black Cat and Spider-Man. Like, I don't know what you did to my father, but now he's gonna rot in jail. I will never forgive you for that. Like, I wanted to see where this was going, but then we get the reveal that the Green Goblin is back. We don't know who the Green Goblin is, but then the big twist happens where um, Norman is revealed to be the Green Goblin, and turns out it was him all along. Because Harry kept drinking that serum that basically makes you strong. Harry was knocked down during Halloween. Norman took advantage and switched his suit, broke his leg, and they made all of us believe that Harry was the Green Goblin all along. But no, that was a great twist. I never expected something like that. But then, Norman Osborn fakes his death, and Harry ends up with Gwen. Even though Peter really wanted to be with Gwen, he even breaks up with Liz, and it hurts her. They were supposed to do so much, and if there was anything negative about the show, is the fact that we never got to the finale. There was rumors that we were gonna get Carnage, and it was gonna redeem Eddie Brock in here. There was talks of Scorpion, even Morbius at one point. I feel like Woody in Toy Story 2 when he's like waiting for the next round of episodes, but turns out that the show never got the finale. Um, and this is the biggest what if in the world. Like, what if the Spectacular Spider-Man continue? If there was a multiverse, I know there's a universe where they actually got the show, and I would do anything to do that, to watch that show, because this is how awesome the writing was, how entertaining it was. It is my favorite Spider-Man show ever. My favorite. I like this better than the movies, I'm being honest. I am thoroughly entertained all out. And honestly, it kind of hurts the rest of the shows that came after this. Like Ultimate Spider-Man, I never got into. Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, which does get a good rep. You heard my review. I liked it, but not to the extent of everybody else. So, to me, the Spectacular Spider-Man will always be my favorite Spider-Man edition. It just sucks that we never got the finale, and that is the only thing that I truly hate about this. We do get the Spectacular Spider-Man come back during Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. We even get revealed that Captain Stacy was supposed to die. You know, I want more. I want the whole shebang bang. I want to see a proper finale to this show. And if we can fight for it, let's do it. For those of you who are the biggest fans, let's do whatever we can to get the show back. We deserve a finale. Like, if we can get X-Men back, we can get the Spectacular Spider-Man back. Come on, let's do it. I'm going to give the show an A. I know that I said it's the best, my favorite Spider-Man show. The only thing that's stopping it is that we never got the finale. At least with Spider-Man 94, it does feel complete, if I'm making sense. So, but it is an amazing show. The writers did a great job, and I was very happy to watch it. And man, I want to watch it again. But I can't because it's time to review the Amazing Spider-Man series, If This May Be My Destiny. One of the more iconic Spider-Man story arcs ever. And I'm here to talk about it, so stay tuned for that one. Anyways, take care, everybody.